What's raging, gamers? Good morning. How you doing, HenricK?
I'm doing good, Chris. How about yourself?
Hey, man, everything's great. Another rainy day here in Southern California, but hey, we're ready to rock and roll. We got a lot of gaming news, industry talk, and so much more to discuss live on the show. And before we even begin, we like to kind of set the tone. We got a lot of videos that are circulating around the web that are quite incredible. And I don't know about you, Henrik, but I saw this
There's a
bar
bar
in
Rome
Rome
that lets you drink
where
you get new.
you literally get to drink if you can win a nuke. Oh shit, I'm going backwards with it. So loud on that. But like, could you imagine? Like, I kind of laughed when I saw this video because you see these girls and they probably have never played a full round of Call of Duty in their whole entire life. But to see that, you're able to do those kind of things at a bar is pretty badass, because I know there's a few gaming bars here in LA, but I don't recall them giving out a free shot or a free drink if you get a nuke. I mean,
No, definitely not.
but I guess the real question is, would you be able to get that nuke, Henrik the Wreck? Because I know I can't. I've sadly have never been able to do it.
Might be a little tricky, but I've been top of the leaderboard in some games before.
Oh, okay.
So, we'll see.
Okay, when you say the top of the leaderboard, I mean, because like nuking somebody's on a totally different level. But you said you're on
I
the
know.
top.
Chris, I was around when Modern Warfare 2 first came out, the first one. So
okay,
I know it's up. I know it's up.
Okay, well, it sounds like you probably had a gamer desk like this gentleman right here. Which, man, it's super high tech, really legit. This is a computer that Henrik was rocking.
Yep.
Back in the early
Minesweeper.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that classic? Like, the dude literally playing some Minesweeper on that. I mean, I used to love playing that game. And remember the pinball game that used to be on the Windows 98?
Yeah, the 3D pinball. Oh man, that was the two games that we would play on the school computers because we couldn't play anything else.
Exactly. And then later when we got into high school, we got pretty lucky to have some cats, get on those PCs and put like the Halo.
Yeah, I was one of those people. I put Halo, I put up Doom, Quake, you name it.
Isn't that incredible to see like so many remakes are dominating? And I know we're going to be talking about that later in the show, but to see how like modern games are just not exceeding in these first 3 months, pretty wild, dude.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, definitely, because I think there's a lot. I mean, we'll talk more about it, but I think there's just so much going on with modern games. It's too much and people don't want to deal with it. So,
but you know what hasn't changed, Henrik, is essentially everybody's computer, or I know my PS4 sounds like this. So, like you do like your traffic control at an airline. This is essentially what this guy's PC sounds like.
Sounds like you gotta dust it out.
But like after a while though, Henrik, it's like, don't you get kind of nervous like opening up PCs like that? I know like they have the special tape, behind the screws on your PlayStation devices, knowing that if you go to return your product, they know that you've been kind of fiddling around with the machine, but you're the daredevil. You're willing to get inside that PC and clean it up.
I mean, that's what I do for work. I kind of just like open up people's computers, fix them, that sort of thing. So at least for me, that's like a normal day for me, opening up a computer or a console. But I can see it being one of those things. It's like, I don't really know if I want to do this. I guess that's why I have a job. You're right.
Oh man, it's funny because I know like I bought a used PlayStation 4 because I gone through 2 already. And we broke it apart, me and my little brother, but like every single time there's so many crevices and so many little tiny wires, and it's like I don't really want to pay for a third one. Just saying. So like it's very, very scary. But I also know some of us out there might meet somebody online. But like I have one of my best friends who met his good friend, Tony, from all the way out in Boston, who's such a cool cat. And I think, having those moments are really cool and special, Henrik the Wreck. But this one I thought was a little strange. This was circulating this week. This girl met him at a RuneScape event. Oh, and my video froze. Great. So, as you can clearly see there, so I'm gonna take myself off screen for a second, HenricK, but why don't you let the people know what's good about what we can expect with Rage Quit?
Well, so today in Rage Quit, we're going to talk about all kinds of things, from like Chris was saying, the remasters issue, some industry talk, things about AI. The thing that I'm actually really interested in talking about is going to be the remasters, because I think it's really sad that remasters have such a bad connotation in people's mouths. But then when you look at the games that come out this year, so far, the games that have come out that have been the highest rated have been the remasters. I don't know about you, Chris, but I think that's crazy. I know he's fixing his thing right now, but
Yeah, we
when he'll
definitely
come
got to.
back, he'll answer that
I,
for
I
me.
I definitely got that going. You know what? If anything, let's set the tone. Let's start the show. Sorry about that, everybody that's tuning in live. That's the beauty of live streaming in the rain. You know how the connection goes with the web, the internet. But I think it's time to set the tone, HenricK the Wreck, as we are about to go into our very first segment of the day.
Hey everyone, this is Pause or Repeat. Here we figure out whether a game is really worth your time and money. Today's game is Returnal. Returnal has been out for a while now. It was originally a PS5 exclusive, but it was only back in February that it finally released on PC as well. It might have flown under the radar for some due to it being a PS5 exclusive first, unfortunately. Returnal is a sci-fi action shooter, so expect a lot of running and gunning during the encounters. The game has some really flashy visuals during fights, which helps you with dodging enemy attacks. Speaking of the combat, let's talk about the gameplay. Returnal is at its core a roguelike. That means that you can expect to be dying and going back to the very start every time that you do. If you've played any roguelike, like for example Hades, you'll be able to quickly pick up the gameplay loop. It consists of doing a run that will never be the same twice, getting to a point where you die, and then starting from the beginning, rinse and repeat. There are also permanent upgrades along the way that you can purchase to increase chances of survival. The roguelike genre has in recent years had a big surge in popularity, as a lot of indie games have decided to go the roguelike way, many of which seeing great success as a result. But what about the story? The story follows Celine Vassos, an astronaut. She crash lands on the planet Atropos and finds herself in a time loop, which ties into the whole roguelike gameplay element. Without going too far into spoiler territory, the storyline delves into the psychological impact of the game's events on Celine, and also delivers a chilling atmosphere of isolation as you traverse the planet. The mainline story takes about 19 hours to go through, with plenty of post-ending content until you reach 100% completion. But now the question still stands: pause or repeat?
That is the question, HenricK the Wreck. So what are we gonna do? I know Zacho Man Game is saying, let's get it. So he needs to know the answers right about now. So what are you gonna let us know? Are you vibing with the game?
Yeah, actually, I think that Returnal is a great game. I saw a lot of people consider it as one of the greater games that the PS5 has as an exclusive, and then now it's also on PC. My friends and I, we love roguelikes. My friends and I, when we were all stuck inside, we started playing this game called Risk of Rain 2. Maybe some of our viewers know about it, but if you don't know about it, it's basically just an indie game. I showed a little clip of it in the video, and that game you can play with 4 people in one lobby, and you're just going around like killing a bunch of aliens, getting upgrades, and this game kind of seems like the same sort of thing, but just creepier and more the horror aesthetic, and I love that. I love that they did such a creepy tone to the atmosphere, because that's perfect for that kind of game, that you're stuck on a planet that you crash landed on. And I think that when I look at the game, I'm like, this game looks great, honestly. Like, I think that this definitely does look like a next gen game, and because of all this, I'm going to say it's a repeat.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good game. I think it definitely gives you the vibes of Control or either Anthem. I mean, I know you were just mentioning the whole like co-op thing that doesn't have that in this. I know they fixed a lot of the problems that a lot of gamers had when it first came out a year ago as a PlayStation exclusive, about how you have to do these very long runs, very long missions throughout the game, and there's not a really a pause moment. Like, you can't just like pause it and go to YouTube TV. You can't like turn off the system. You have to like consistently let it go if you wanted to be in the place that you were previously at. That's all fixed now, which is really great. I mean, the gameplay mechanics kind of feel a tad chunky. If you're into Ratchet and Clank, you're gonna definitely love these kind of style of games. I'm personally into these style of games as well, but I just feel like with how difficult it is, I don't know if the average gamer is gonna want to repeat this process again. But it's an incredible game. But I'm gonna say it's a pause, HenricK, only for that matter that once you go 19 hours, you're probably gonna move on and you're gonna want to play another game. But it is a beautiful atmosphere. If you're now a PC gamer that now has the opportunity to play the game, if you got a few shekels and you want to support this gaming studio company, by all means, Returnal's the game for you.
No, it's definitely fair. And I have heard also that a lot of people got stuck on the first boss. Because,
Yes.
this game is definitely not easy at all. It throws so much at you at once, and you just kind of got to keep up. But, practice makes perfect. So, if you do play the game,
That's
just
right.
keep at it. You'll get through it eventually.
That's right, baby. Well, hey, you heard it. We're kind of split, but we want to know from you, the gamers. Are you going to pause or repeat? But stick around on Rage Quit because we got so much more to discuss. So, hey, let's get it, fam. What's good, listeners? Welcome to Patch Notes, where my co-host HenricK and I discuss gaming news, industry talk, viral meltdowns, and so much more. And 2023 has already kicked off to a pretty solid year for games. But the only issue is remakes so far are pretty much dominating the charts in the first 3 months of 2023. So if you go on IGN, you go on GameSpot, you go on Metacritic, you're going to realize that these highest rated games are just remasters or remakes, which is very, very sad to know that, considering the fact that we got a lot of games that are, what you just did literally on pause or repeat. HenricK, do you remember that game that you were so hyped up about that I wasn't hyped on?
Oh, yeah, I remember now. It was Metroid Prime Remastered. That one, it does have high ratings, but I remember you were like, nah, this game doesn't need to be remade. Come on, Chris.
It just doesn't feel necessary. I mean, as you can clearly see here, we have Resident Evil 4 that's coming out. There is The Witcher 3, the complete Hunt edition, which is like, do we really even need that? But I think the real overall question that's being circulated on the web is, are people tired of modern games? I mean, to me, HenricK, it feels like there's a lot of looted boxes, too many microtransactions. You always got to be online, which is such a strange requirement nowadays, and just awful, crafting mechanics. So do you think that's part of the factor, or do you think it might be because maybe Gen Xers are the ones reviewing these games and we're not really getting a good representation of young gamers?
No, I think definitely part of the issue is going to be all the modern issues that come around with games, like the fact that they're trying to squeeze every little penny out of the gamers, with the microtransactions, and having to be online is just another thing that is annoying. Like, why do I have to be online for a single player game? That just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I get it if there's multiplayer in the game and, keep that separate for its own thing. But if I just want to play the single player story by itself, I should be able to do that online or offline. Just give me the choice at least.
Oh, yeah,
but I think
absolutely.
also, like you said, just, maybe the people who are reviewing the games, they don't want to necessarily play newer games because they don't know if it's going to be good, but they know for sure that the older games that were already good, like Resident Evil 4, they know what's going on when they go into it.
Well, Henrik, I
So.
get it. You know, when you go and you're growing up as like our age and you're playing like Tomb Raider with the triangle, big old titties, like you're gonna like eventually see like amazing graphics and you're gonna go, oh my gosh, I wish some of those Saga games or some of those Nintendo 64 or PS1 games, can we please get a remake? But, you clearly see with some of these games right here that we're playing, Dead Space, the remake, like that was like a decade ago. We got Resident Evil 4 that came out on the GameCube. It wasn't terrible graphics, but was it necessary? And I know that they're all being scored like 93 and up, which is insane to consider. And I know there's a lot of game developers out there that are trying to tackle the modern gaming, because essentially two of the, top games of the year last year were God of War Ragnarok and Elden Ring. And respectfully, to complete those games, Henrik, do you know what the average time is?
For Elden Ring, it's probably, I want to say, around like 40 hours at least, maybe 50 or more, actually. It depends on probably how much you die and get stuck on stuff, I'd say. And the game's not easy, so.
Not easy at all, and they did report this week that in Elden Ring alone, 9 million people have died. That's insane.
I did see that, yeah. That's crazy. But hey,
you were right on the
that kind of game.
Henrik. It was about 25 to 55 hours to complete these games, which is just totally insane. And, Assassin's Creed developers have already came out and said that they got so much backlash from the last game that they released that they're actually working on bringing it to a more intimate scale. Just essentially saying we're going to make it a shorter time. And there's also another gaming studio company called Flux Games, who is also rolling out a new label called Short and Sweet, where they're going to be making games, Henrik, that are going to be 2 to 5 hours long. Is that really what gamers want? I kind of giggled when I saw that.
I think that's going to depend on how much they're planning on charging, because, if they're planning on charging the full $60 or $70 for that, no. 5 hours for $70 seems ridiculous. But if they're going to charge like $15, maybe even $20 could be acceptable. But at the same time, I'm going to say, I don't know if I agree entirely of the whole, the game needs to be a certain length if we're going to charge this much, because there's some games that are not that long in the first place that could still be worth the full price of $60. It just depends on, replay value and how much passion was actually put into the game that translated to a good experience in the game.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and I think we also have to consider with like modern gaming, there's a reason why these gaming studio companies want to make shorter games is because of the expensive development cost. And that's probably why they want to revisit remakes and remasters, because essentially the game's there. It's intact. You just have to upgrade the VFX, which is totally insane. But we want to move on to another topic, which is definitely gotten everybody kind of riled up, because from March 27th, it will no longer be possible to purchase games on the Wii U or the 3DS eShop. So I know Nintendo gamers are not happy about this, but popular content creator, The Completionist, claims the entire collection in a viral video that's circulating all over YouTube. So we got a little clip that will kind of show you the madness.
Every Nintendo 3DS and Wii U game on the eShop. That's 866 Wii U games and 1,547 3DS games, including DSiWare, Virtual Console games, and DLC, equating to 1.2 terabytes on the Nintendo Wii U and 267 gigabytes, or 2,136,689 blocks on the Nintendo 3DS. That's right, this thing measures in blocks. And this whole ordeal took 328 days, required 464 eShop cards, and cost $22,791.
Okay, that is freaking insane. Can you even name like more than 15 games, Henrik, on the Nintendo that's actually worthy of even playing that much?
Yeah. I mean, I might be hard pressed to do that. Yeah, you're right. But I think he brings up a conversation, or at least this whole topic does in the first place, of they're closing these digital shops. Like Sony and Microsoft did it as well, where if these games have only been released on that digital shop, then once that shop gets closed, how do you expect someone to play the games that are only released on that digital shop? Like the
Yeah.
games are just gone forever? Like that doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, they are, and that's what is essentially going down. And I think we'll see what happens because we in the music scene we've seen that vinyl has made its comeback. I mean, I've always giggled in the past and said physical copies will not be a thing anymore with the gaming world because the gaming studio companies are trying to transition us over to cloud gaming and upgrading our modems for our internet. So, I mean, the fact that, you literally have to spend close to $23,000, on Wii U and 3DS games is totally insane. And what's really funny about this video, HenricK, is when you go and watch the 20-minute video, he got him and his buddies and a few of his colleagues in the gaming industry to help him out. But they have like a strict policy at like stores where like if you want to buy gift cards, you can only buy like $200 worth individually. So they ran into numerous problems. That's why it took them over a year to literally acquire all these assets on their gaming devices. They also said that, they had to get 464 eShop cards to make it happen. And they continuously funnel into the system because their bank kept flagging them.
Yeah, the bank's like, what are you doing? Why are you spending so much money on these games? What's going on?
I guess the good thing to know is on a final note about this, HenricK, is that at least Nintendo has something in place where it can protect you from your loved ones, let's say your little ones, who might go rogue, and you might have your credit card or debit card on the gaming device, and they start spending a shit ton of games. At least behind the scenes, there's a little bit of a cap. It's a heavy cap. It's about $200, but just know Nintendo will stop you and will alert you for any kind of more frivolous transactions. And man, this one's the more meaty conversation that we're going to be discussing right now, which is the gaming studio companies are speaking out over UK's Competition and Market Authority, which is also known as the CMA, has posted written responses from Microsoft, Sony, Activision Blizzard, and 6 third parties to its provisional report regarding the proposed $69 billion acquisition of the Call of Duty maker by Microsoft. And what we're really going to be focusing on right now is the provisional reports. More in particular, the 6 third parties that were involved. And I'm going to take down the lower third. This is very chunky, guys. But what's really remarkable about this is 4J Studios, the developer of Minecraft, which has worked in cahoots with Microsoft for years, HenricK. If you look at the bottom paragraph, they are essentially saying, during the phase of Microsoft ownership, we have never been under any pressure to favor Microsoft-owned formats. In fact, we've been able to make our own Mario mashup pack for Nintendo formats. But what gets really intriguing is, from there on, with the rest of them, everybody remained anonymous. Why is that the case, HenricK?
I think part of that is maybe they don't want to get called out by Sony and then blacklisted, because I could definitely see this being a situation where, if they speak out against Sony, they're just going to be scared that Sony's going to be like, oh, well, if you're going to stand up against us, then we're going to make sure that you can never publish a game on our platform.
Yeah,
At least that's how I see it.
No, absolutely, because you look at market participant B, and now we're moving on to the CEO of market participant C, who claims he's an indie developer who has worked with all 3 parties, and he's come out and said in the last 25 years, Microsoft has always honored their contracts and obligations. And when they say that they intend to make Call of Duty content available on Sony and Nintendo, we believe them. So, but if that's the case, why are they hiding themselves behind this provisional report? We even go on to the next participant, which is the Chinese tech firm, Tencent. And they came out and said, we're already an investor with Activision. So if Microsoft is prevented from acquiring Activision would the UK consumers be better served if they were acquired by Tencent instead? Does he have a point, HenricK?
I don't know. I feel like Tencent has its own issues, considering a lot of people don't like the fact that they're based in China, for one. I know that's a xenophobic thing that people have against the Chinese companies, but it is a thing to point out. You can't really ignore that, considering the West countries have a certain connotation against that. But also just the fact that a lot of these Tencent games, they heavily focus on monetization. And is that really going to be better for the gamers at the end of the day? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I think that's a great point that you're bringing up. And, we're going to continue to go down the list because this is market participant D. They are a developer and a publisher of so unquoted AAA titles who have been distributed on all major consoles from Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, PC, mobile, you name it. And they have come out and said, we do not, however, expect any significant impact of the merger on our company, nor the distribution of our own products. In particular, we do not expect the merger to pose any risk. So if that's the case, why are you hiding in the provisional report? We go on even to another one that contradicts one of Sony's arguments for blocking the deal. And they say, it's kind of crazy because the transaction would substantially improve Microsoft's bargaining position with independent developers, which is a great point to reference out. And also market participant E, which has worked with both Xbox and PlayStation in the past, felt especially motivated to share their opinions, but did not want to reference their name in the provisional report, which I think is hilarious. And it's so chunky, but really overall, what they're saying is on the opposite. What they're saying is when they go ahead and they put their stuff on the PlayStation Store, listeners, they figure out that we're not getting the same lion's share of player numbers and console sales. But when we put it on the Xbox, the opposite happens. So what is going on that you're so afraid to hide yourself from Sony? And let's go on to the last market participant F, who attacked Sony's arguments throughout this whole debate and also brought up the repeated scandals of the Activision Blizzard. And they felt like, honestly, this argument against this acquisition is slightly exaggerated and out of proportion. So with that in mind, HenricK, what the hell is going on, my friend? I mean, are
so
you
much
satisfied?
bureaucracy and red tape. Like, they've been going at it for so long at this point. I think it's just such a spectacle now because they're just going back and forth. And now all these companies are supporting Microsoft, and Microsoft's saying, hey, Sony, come on, let me do this. Like, I have all the support. I'm showing proof that it's going to be fine. And they're saying,
Exactly.
no, I don't want you to do this because I said it's bad. It's a bad thing for you to do this because if you do this, we'll be able to not have our games on our platform anymore. And a lot of the games that they're saying are not going to be on the platform anymore are big games like Call of Duty. And they have a big interest in that, I'm sure, because they make a ton of money off of microtransactions, I'm sure.
Exactly. Isn't that totally insane? And we're going to go into our last topic for today on Rage Quit, and that is, will GPT-4 disrupt video games? And this is pretty fascinating. We're going to go ahead and showcase this live on screen. People have been utilizing the new OpenAI, which is the latest AI model, which is from the company. I feel like this is like a Dr. Seuss rhyme, but it's an OpenAI. That's the company. Their new AI model, which is called GPT-4, has only been on the scene for like a week, but it's already making waves among users and gamers who want to get involved with making video games through this GPT-4, which is really remarkable. We have one cat right here who developed Doom, which is so freaking fascinating. What they essentially do is they ask the GPT to create this style of game in Doom. Then what ends up happening next, HenricK? They start giving you this copy and code paste that you can do a source code. Then it starts implementing into codes. Then you drop that code into, an HTML, but you have to ask it politely. if you want it in 3D. Then you'll start to get somewhat of a wall, which I agree, it does look quite boring. But then if you ask it politely, because again, what they're trying to tell you is the wall that's white is essentially just showing like a grayscale and a white scale, and the 1 and the zeros identifies the color. But then if you ask it politely, then you can start to get some pink colors. I mean, he didn't specify. He just said, I wanted some colors into the mix. But we essentially understand the idea about what people can utilize with these tools. And I wish we had more time, but we're starting to run out. But when we see this amazing tool, what do you have to say about this, HenricK the Wreck?
I mean, I think that it's an interesting situation because it's like, where do you put the restrictions on things? Because I think that this tool really has a good place in educating people and
Yeah.
practicing and learning. Because you could ask it to do one of these things like make a game for you, and then you could sit there and dissect the code that it made and be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Or you could even write your own code and then say, hey, could you proofread this for me? And it will tell you if you have a mistake or anything like that. But if you were to put any restrictions on it to make any games in the first place like this, then people couldn't use it for educational purposes in the first place anyways, if there's restrictions. But I think I feel like there's going to end up being some restrictions on things like this because eventually it's going to get to the point that something's going to be made. And they were already trying to do that with the previous chat GPT.
Yep.
And that was the fact that you could potentially have it make malicious software. And they do have fail safes for that.
Yeah.
But people were getting by the bypassing the fail safes and still letting it actually make malicious software, which that's where you get into some dystopian like Terminator, Skynet sort of stuff, and that's the sort of thing that kind of starts to freak me out a little bit.
Yeah, you started to sound like Stephen Hawking. Before he passed away, he really spoke out about the dangers of AI and what it can bring to a society. And I was even watching Richard Dawkins on Pierce Morgan's show Across the Pond, and they were also contemplating the whole idea that, with this whole GPT-4, there could essentially be a world where we don't survive and only robots will rule this world. It sounds like a horror story, in my opinion. So it's totally insane. I mean, it's not completely out the window. I think people tend to forget, HenricK, that, there's cats out there like Elon Musk who's been developing Neuralink, programming them into monkeys' brains and then essentially having their signals produce what they're doing, which is either playing the game Pong or Breakout or etc., which is totally freaking insane. But hey, we want to thank everybody who is tuning in to Rage Quit, our video game talk show. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you never miss a live show. And HenricK the Wreck, where can they check out your latest video content?
Yeah, so if you go to the Chris Collins Show website, I have a specific page just for me and my content. You can find it there. But I also, if you want to just go directly to my social media, I post on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and you'll find all the video content I post there, as well as sometimes I'll post some stuff on the Chris Collins YouTube channel also.
That's right, baby. And I also want to remind everybody, I do a music podcast. It's called Off the Fret, More Music Talk, featuring Nashville country star Amanda Cooksey. It's out now on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And we got an amazing live show this Friday at 10 a.m. with my co-host, HenricK the Wreck. He's going to be joining us also with a gentleman that's been on numerous times on the Chris Collins Show. His name is Dan Mitri. He has been a video game industry leader. He's also in a punk rock band called Distortions. So go ahead and join us live at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time this Friday and get ready to rage out and rock and roll. But I know HenricK the Wreck and I, we will see you next week, fam, every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. For now, enjoy the weekend, play a kick-ass game, and try to stay dry out there in Southern California. Peace.
See ya.